guys ever wondered how it is different dating a Chinese person as opposed to dating a Western person?
I know I have, Tyler.
Yeah, well, we're experts, and today we're going to tell you the 5 biggest differences we can think of between dating a Chinese person and a Western person. My name's Tyler, and I'm married to a Chinese woman.
And my name is Rachel, and I've been in a blissful relationship for 3 years with a Chinese guy.
All right, let's check it out. The first difference is meeting the parents. Meeting the parents in the West is really casual, and it often happens on the first date. Here in China, it's a big deal. It's like a sign that you are going to get married.
Yeah, but did you just meet your wife's parents right before you got married?
No, so I played the foreign card. I got some slack cut, and I communicated with my wife to communicate with her parents and say, hey, I would like to meet you guys before we get married. So I actually met them 2 or 3 months into our relationship. So I was very lucky, without the expectation that we were gonna get married.
Right, and that's something that you can kind of use to your advantage. We call it the foreign card. Is Chinese parents aren't going to have exactly the same expectations of a foreign partner as they would of a Chinese partner.
Exactly.
So you can relax a little bit when it comes to that. But there are still some things that you should cover. First of all, gift giving. Huge in China, but especially important when you go to meet the parents. Usually you want something a little bit personal, but cost is kind of a factor. If you bring something, make sure it looks nice and presentable, not just have something kind of put together at last minute, because gift giving is a huge part of Chinese culture.
Right, so we were talking about that earlier. It's like
What'd you
the
bring?
value. Well, I brought cigarettes and wine. I brought wine from Portland, Oregon, because that's where I'm from, and I brought cigarettes from Oregon as well, or American cigarettes.
They do like their vices.
They love their vices. I agree with Rachel in that the thought put into it is important, and the value of that gift is super, super important, like the dollar value in China for gifts. Often, it's a big money-giving culture, red envelopes and money and stuff like that. So in summary, if you want to meet the parents, you either need to do some really good communication beforehand, or
you could just, marry them.
Be ready to get married,
after.
yeah. Okay, so the second difference is about who pays during dating. Now, I remember back when I first started dating in high school, I asked my sister, who should pay? Like, what should the percentages be here? How do we divvy this out? She told me, Ty, you should pay for about 2/3 of the time and let your girlfriend pay for about 1/3. So maybe I would buy dinner and she would buy movie tickets, something like that. What would you say?
I'd say it's about the same now in the States. We probably... you don't want to put all of the financial burden on one partner, so most couples kind of acknowledge that it's fair to at least split some of the time. But that's not quite the case in China.
No.
They're a bit more traditional here, and Chinese girls really appreciate being kind of doted on. I mean, Ty was telling me it's not abnormal if a guy and a girl are on a date and some girl goes, oh, that's such a cute bag. The guy will just buy it.
Yeah.
That's like a signal to him that this is what you need to buy for me. And it can cause some tension between Westerners and Chinese people. Personally, my first boyfriend was Chinese, and he and his family bought me so many gifts that I actually began to feel a bit uncomfortable.
Obligated.
Yeah, and you start to feel a bit of an obligation because
you're
you're spending
indebted
money
to the person.
on it.
Yeah.
So that is kind of a big difference. If you're a foreign guy, you should know that maybe your Chinese girlfriend's going to have particular expectations when it comes to that. And if you're a foreign woman, you're going to need to either have a conversation with your partner if you don't feel comfortable with it, or be prepared for lots of gifts.
Yeah. And in general, just dating, I would say that it's still a little bit more traditional here in that the men pay for most or all. As a Westerner, you're cut some slack, like we said, but a lot of Chinese guys, they'll be on the date, not only do the dinner movie thing, they will also see a bag and be or some shoes.
Buy gifts and flowers.
Let's pick it up.
So, be prepared for that. Men, get your wallets ready, apparently.
Yes.
Swipe. So the third major difference, especially for women dating Asian men or Chinese men, is that they're really comfortable with periods. We all have grown up with guys in our class seeing a tampon and freaking out, even though it's completely clean and it's ridiculous. But Chinese guys, it's part of the doting thing, where if they know you're on your period, they'll be like, oh, honey, come on, lay down, have a rest, and they'll make you tea. My boyfriend even got me a hot water bottle one time and asked me, he's like, oh, are you having cramps? None of my guy friends back home knew what cramps were. So this is kind of a welcome change, that you're a bit more open in relationships about certain bodily functions. And that is not limited to just periods. And we're going to go over to Ty, and he'll tell you what the other aspect of this is.
So Rachel said it was a good thing. Well, it's a good thing for the girls, but for us guys, I mean, it takes some adjusting. It's like it's way more open. We're talking about, and they don't even use tampons here. That's a whole nother video. That's a totally different video. So the other thing, the other bodily function that's really openly talked about is your bowel movements, especially diarrhea. It's like, oh, girls will always, or guys, they will openly say, like, I've got diarrhea. Like you're in a meeting at work, so it comes in, I'm sorry I'm late, I had diarrhea. Like, why are you telling me this? TMI is not a thing here. So that's another thing you need to be mentally prepared for.
I don't know what Ty is talking about. I personally love talking about diarrhea in work meetings. No. So yeah, it's called La Douze, and you'll just be sitting there watching Game of Thrones, nothing's happening, and suddenly your boyfriend's like, honey, I've got the shits. And you're like, I didn't need to know that, but they want to tell you. So that's something you're gonna have to deal with.
So difference number 4 is the dating timeline. In China, from dating to marriage, the speed is really fast. Whereas in America, it would be extremely slow. So this is generalizing. We have shotgun weddings in America as well as China, but in general, I would say that in China,
it's like 1 to 2 years timeline.
Kinda, yeah. Whereas in America, it would be maybe 3 to 5 or never.
Like seriously, I had a coworker who, when I met her, she was single. By the end of the year, she had a boyfriend, got married, and was pregnant.
Good grief.
1 year.
So be prepared for kind of more sense of urgency on getting married.
Especially if your partner is around the age of 30.
Oh my gosh. That's a whole,
like
there's a
dating
word
death.
for that here. It's called 生女. That's a whole nother video. We'll talk about that another day. So be ready for a speedy relationship.
On the fast track.
Okay, the 5th and final reason for today is what it takes as a man to be able to get married.
Like even consider.
Yeah, in China they say 有房有车有存款. So it's like to have a house, to have a car, to have savings. And seriously, like to make people, families and women feel secure about being with you, you do need some of that stuff.
Tyler, what did you have before you got married?
So I had the 存款, but the savings, but I didn't have a house, didn't have a car here in China. But after we got married, we did buy a house and we now have a car. And yeah, so we're good now. But I was cut some slack. Again, that foreign card, I swiped that real good.
So obviously that's pretty different from how we date or get married in the US and even the West, where young couples are usually much more willing to rent because it's usually a lot more financially feasible for them. But in China, it's really seen as something that's kind of necessary just for the security. But you can get away with not having it if you're a foreigner. So
sure. Now, it's not a good thing or a bad thing, it's just different. So be mentally prepared for that. It's just a culture difference. All right, that's it for today. We're curious to hear what experiences you have had in your relationships with Chinese people. Leave a comment below. Let us know other differences that you've experienced yourself.
We want to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you guys want to follow Rachel, hit her up on Quora. I'll leave a link down below. Subscribe here. Thank you guys for watching. We got plenty more coming your way in the future.
All right, see you next time.
Peace.
Peace. I'm trying to, if you can't tell, I'm pushing that.